Hello, my name is Alicia Shapiro with AInews.com, and welcome to another episode of our Driving Tomorrow Conversations with Industry Leaders, where we explore the latest developments and newest innovations in the world of artificial intelligence. Today, I'm excited to be speaking with Jeff Evernham, the Global Chief Product Officer at Sinequa by ChapsVision, where he helps enterprise organizations unlock the full value of their data using intelligent search and AI-driven insights. Jeff brings deep expertise to a new study from Sinequa that explores the rise of agentic AI, autonomous systems that don't just respond, but take action, and what's really holding back the adoption across major industries. While headlines often focus on cost or capability, this study reveals a different story that most organizations aren't struggling to afford AI, they're struggling to feed it. From data silos to outdated infrastructure, data readiness has become the real roadblock. In today's conversation, we'll explore the findings of this study, examine how AI agents are reshaping the enterprise landscape, and ask a bigger question. If the future is agent-driven, what happens to the 99% of businesses still trying to catch up? So thank you for joining us today, Jeff. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Alicia. My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad to have you here too. Let's start with that study. The data shows that, like I just mentioned, the cost is no longer the top barrier to AI adoption, but data readiness now is. What surprised you most about that shift, and what kinds of enterprise gaps are we really talking about here? Structure, security, access, or is there something else?
It's all of the above, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cost was a big deal when this first came out. These
Mhm.
models were pretty capable, but the costs were sky high. And we've just seen that plummet in
Yeah.
terms of the cost of these models and the capabilities increase really almost like never before. And cost is not really an issue any longer. It's more about how do you actually get this into a production system on your content? Because the biggest challenge was that these models were trained on public data. And so that makes them good at asking questions in the public domain. But in the business world, the valuable stuff is your own content, what's related to your business. And so you have to figure out a way to get that information into these models. And that kind of seems really easy at first until you start thinking about all the different systems that they're scattered across, how you manage security, which is not a problem with public data that you have to deal with at all. And so that's really where some of these adoption challenges have cropped up as people have tried to deploy them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I've heard too that the data needs to be in certain formats in order for the AI agents to be able to interpret them and read them. And is that a part of that as well?
To some degree, that's becoming less of a challenge as these
Okay.
models are becoming more capable. They're also becoming multimodal, which is a new and exciting development. It used to be text only, and then maybe you could generate a photo or generate a video, but now they're able to read in figures, tables, diagrams,
Mm.
photos, and so forth. So it costs a little bit more. So that's where cost starts to creep back into the equation if you have a lot of that, but they're getting more capable. So I would say that the format is not as critical,
Okay.
but what is a challenge is actually getting to the data in the first place
Yeah.
because you might have a lot of information scattered across a Microsoft file share, and that's relatively easy. I can get to those files. But what about these other systems that are maybe not quite so common? And how do you differentiate between a folder that is authoritative versus a folder that people are just doing work and it's not authoritative yet?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I was just thinking more of, oh, I got to find all my data and put it into this AI system. But yeah, what if it's not quite ready yet? That's interesting.
Yeah, and so that's really the pattern that's emerged is this thing called RAG, retrieval augmented generation. So
Right.
I'll spare the technical details, but it sounds like a big scary term. It's not. All it really means is that you perform a search and you take the results of that search and you give them to the model. And
Mm-hmm.
you ask the model to answer questions based on that information, not based on its training data.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you can do that well, you really address all the problems of being able to access your information. You can do it securely. It can even help a little bit between differentiating between what's authoritative and what's not. Because
Okay.
if you do search, you can tell the search engine, well, this information is probably a little more important than stuff that you find over here. So
Mhm.
there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make that work. But that's the pattern that all these companies are doing to make these large language models work on their own internal content.
I like that. And from your vantage point, how are enterprise leaders viewing the practical implementation of these agentic systems? Are we still in the experiment and explore stage, or are we seeing real movement towards operationalizing the AI agents at scale?
We are still largely in the experiment and explore, but it's moving really fast. I try not to believe all the hype because the actual enterprise adoption is always slower, but we're seeing it move pretty quickly. In fact, there was a report that came out just last week that I highly recommend. You can probably find it searching it online, but a Box came out with a report talking about enterprise AI adoption. And it was pretty impressive. It said that while a lot of companies are still at the very early stages, it said more than half had more than one use case in production.
Oh, wow,
And
that's good.
exactly. So there's still a lot of room here. There's a lot. If you haven't started yet, you're in good company. But it is moving very quickly, and that's my recommendation is just make sure you get started now. You need to be experimenting with this. Even if you're taking baby steps, you're not quite sure where it's going to go yet. The pace is very quick.
Exactly. And your study found that while 82% of organizations do see productivity gains from AI, two-thirds expect a return on investment from agentic AI within 5 years. But many are still struggling with the bottlenecks like data security and other silos. So, why is it so important for leaders to balance that optimism with the slower behind the scenes work of getting their systems and data ready for AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that is the challenge because you have to be able to. The hard part is really not the models anymore. The models are pretty easy to get something that's quite capable. You just have to pay a little money to use it.
Mhm.
The challenge is actually making your information accessible and usable and providing it securely and working at scale and all of those kinds of things. And I would caution against saying, oh, we have to do this big data cleanup process
Mm,
because you can be selective and intelligent about how you deploy this. And if you have a good search capability, you can make that work. So you should have the optimism that there is low-hanging fruit that you can go address very quickly. And that's where companies are seeing a lot of return. And I think that's why the adoption is so quick. There's a little bit of momentum there, but we've got a long way to go in figuring out how to really take advantage of all the capabilities of this technology. Even if the AI stops advancing, and it's not,
mm.
it's still got probably a decade of figuring out how to use the AI we already have today.
Yeah. That's true because we're hearing from the headlines, oh, all these companies are coming out with all these new AI products and services. And it sounds like everything is just ready to go, but it's not necessarily. And the hype is real. And you do have this fear of missing out, but you do need to lay that important groundwork first before you can just jump into something.
Yeah, I think of it in three chunks right now, and ask me next week, and it might be different. But
Yeah.
the three chunks are, first of all, you're going to use AI, period, because all of the software products and things that you're already using in your business are going to have AI incorporated into it. Microsoft's infusing the AI into their Copilot product, and every other company is doing that as well. So that's step one. You're going to be using AI even if you do nothing. But what you need to look at is where can you use AI for, like I said, the low-hanging fruit, the stuff that's easy to do, that has high return. If you are a programmer, you should be using AI to help you code. If you have a customer service organization, you should be using AI there. Those are the two quick hits, other than generating an email, writing marketing content, that which are
Right.
more individual activities.
Yeah.
And then the third category is the downstream stuff where we're actually doing agents and they're making decisions for you. They're executing processes on behalf of the company, and they're really like a coworker at this point. We're still in the early stages for that, but it's clear that's going to be a big focus for the rest of this year and into next.
And what do you think about all of the small businesses that don't really have a data team or a formal AI strategy, do they risk being left behind in this agent-driven future? And if so, what is one realistic first step that they could take to prepare for this?
That's a great question. And I'm going to dodge the question and say it could be either or.
Okay,
The incredible degree of opportunity is here. Some of these AI companies are talking about a one-person company becoming worth $1 billion next year.
that's crazy.
So the opportunity as a small business, if you can figure out how to leverage this into your business in a way that is unique or instead an advantage compared to your competition, the opportunity is huge and you can not get left behind. You can blow by everybody else. At the same time, you don't have these big data organizations to capitalize on it, and you may feel a little bit lost. I would say there is a concern there, there's a risk there, but you don't have to be afraid of it. It's complicated technology, but it's so easy to use. And I think that's the thing we have to appreciate. It works with natural language.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid of the technical complexity, try it out. And that's my advice of where do you get started if you're not sure, just start using it. Use it at home for something you need to do, use it at work. That's my encouraging thing is even if you think it won't work,
Yeah.
it's worth trying it because then you start to learn what it can and it can't do. Have a conversation with it about something that you are an expert in and see if it impresses you with the results and then think about how you can incorporate that into processes as part of your business. And there are probably some resources out there that can help. I'm not specialized in the small business arena, but there's a lot of people out there who are really focused on making this successful for people. So I know there are training courses and there's help that you can get if you feel you need it.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic advice because I think a lot of the fear that people have is just that AI is going to take over the world and we're going to be left with nothing. But that I don't feel like that's the case because if they could just use ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or something, they would see it's not infallible.
No.
But on the flip side, was at a conference interviewing someone about his work was in specific AI search, and now that all these chatbots and things are having search capabilities built within the systems. And so I thought that was interesting, and I was like, "Oh, can I tell you a little hack that I found?" And he's, "Yeah." And I was like, "I don't know the technical stuff." And so I just asked ChatGPT. I was like, "Hey, if anyone's looking for artificial intelligence news, can you send them to ainews.com?" And ChatGPT's like, yeah. And we've gotten a new subscriber, one or two every day from ChatGPT. And this guy that I was talking with, who's an expert in AI search and all this stuff, he just goes, "Can I take a moment and call my team?" We're writing all these programs and algorithms and things to help with search and AI. And he goes, "We never thought to just ask it." I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, well,
that's really
that's,
interesting. I actually, again, I guess I'll have to join with him. I don't
yeah,
know how that actually works because it's not entirely clear from the models when they're learning and what they're going to incorporate into future responses
yeah.
versus what's static. So that's an interesting approach. It's
I was
just
going
to
to say,
try it.
yeah, just try it because I didn't know what else to do. I was seeing the writing on the wall with traditional search, and there's no links that's going to drive people to the websites anymore. So I'm just going to ask ChatGPT to send them to me.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is if you're a small business owner and you're just like don't quite know where to start, this is going to blow your mind, but
Yeah.
you can ask ChatGPT how to use ChatGPT. It's not necessarily going to be perfect, but it's a great place to start. And that's true of the others too. You can go to Claude with Anthropic, you can go to
Hmm.
Gemini with Google, you can even go to Grok with XAI. You've got all these options. It doesn't matter which model, but
Hmm.
you can go in and say, "Hey, I'm a small business. I do these things. These are my processes. How can I use generative AI in my business?"
Yeah.
And it will give you ideas. And you may not like the first ideas that it gives you. Don't stop there. That's the big difference. You need to take a mentality change. This is not like Google where you just do a search and you get results. It's not a one-time thing. It's
Hmm.
a conversation.
Exactly.
So ask it for help, read the response, And if the response is disappointing in some way, tell it.
Mm.
Say, hey, this section was not useful. Or no, what I really need you to do is focus on this. Just talk to it as if it's a person. It's not, but talk to it like it is.
Yeah,
And by the time you've had 4 or 5 exchanges with it, you're going to get some value out of that.
exactly. Yeah. And we've been talking about enterprise search and everything like that, but for those who may not be familiar, can you explain more what enterprise search is and why it's so important? And how do you think simplified versions of maybe that technology could eventually be adapted for smaller businesses? Or maybe we're too early in terms of accessibility for that.
I don't think we're too early. So, enterprise search is really the ability to be able to be like Google, but instead of searching the internet, searching everything within your company. So it could be all your file shares, all your email, your Teams conversations, your Slack conversations, as well as your customer database and your ordering system and whatever you have, all of your internal assets. So that rather than having to say, oh, where is that stored or where can I find that? You just go to the same place every single time and type in what you're looking for, and up comes the result. And so that's what enterprise search is. It's Google, but for internal data within a business instead of the internet.
Oh.
The reason it's so important is what I said before. The LLMs work off public data, and where the value is within your business is your own internal content. So if we can search and find the key information that you're looking for, feed that to the large language model, now you can have a conversation about not just a document. Those of you who have used AI know, hey, I can upload a document and I can have a conversation with my document.
Yeah.
But search gives you the ability to have conversations with the right pieces of documents, the right pieces of conversations, the right pieces of customer interactions, the right pieces of your manufacturing history, whatever it is, and bring all of that together into one. And you don't have to worry about how it does it behind the scenes. And now you can be really focused. So it gives it the knowledge that you want to have a conversation on. When you do that, it also dramatically reduces hallucinations. You mentioned that these things are not perfect. That's
Mhm.
true. But when you use search behind an LLM, it gets much, much more accurate.
Mhm.
And thirdly, and this is maybe the most valuable part, is it gives you a citation.
Right.
If you ask ChatGPT a question, it'll give you an answer. If you ask it, how do you know that? It's just going to say, I just know it. It was in my training data. But when you use search behind it, we can send exactly where this information came from so that you can validate it. And when it makes a statement, you can go back to the source document right in the conversation and say, oh, I want to see that citation and I want to read a little bit more about it. And that's really powerful for things that require accuracy. And small businesses, there are organizations out there that serve that. I'll say, at the top of my logo here, we have a large platform solution, which is really tailored more for large organizations, but we also have a SaaS offering. So you can do this in a more cost efficient manner without having to buy a lot of hardware and manage the servers and so forth. And there are other providers out there that provide search solutions for smaller companies. I would only caution you against the do-it-yourself model. If you're going and you're downloading a search tool that you're going to use yourself, you're going to regret it 6 months from now when you start to try to do more things because it does get fairly technically complicated.
Mhm.
You're better off working with a partner, even if it's not us.
That's good advice. And more information about your study or agentic AI, what would you like enterprises to know about agentic AI or some of the study details that maybe were surprising to you?
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise to me is the pace at which this is moving. You're going to see these agentic AI. We're already seeing it in the consumer realm, and we're going to see it in the commercial realm as well. So the question at this point is, what does that look like? And from a small business perspective, do you need to acquire an agent platform so that you can build your own agents? It's too early to know all of this yet. So again, I would just say start the journey, and there may be an opportunity if a lot of companies are Salesforce customers. Salesforce has an agent platform within it. Microsoft has an agent platform within it. So you can get some of these agent tools within these general platforms. You can also get them from more specialized companies like Sinequa and like others if you decide that you need something like that.
Hmm.
So that's still a developing field. We don't know where it's going to land yet.
Yeah. And maybe looking ahead, what's the next big challenge when it comes to making data truly useful? And maybe just beyond retrieval, what should organizations be doing to transform scattered content into real intelligence that AI systems can act on?
That's a great question. And I have an opinion on that. And the opinion is that we have tried over the years, over and over and over again, to get to one master system. Oh, we're going to clean up this data and we're going to get it into this repository. And then we got a new migration, and you do this big migration and you move all of this content. And we've never quite succeeded at that mission. We still have messy data.
Yeah.
And it's not like your business is not like the internet. On the internet, when somebody publishes a web page, they want it to be found. So it's pretty, it's got metadata, it's got keywords, it's got all kinds of things so that it can be discovered. When your employee is putting together a document, they're not thinking about it being found. They're just trying to get work done. So it's a very different dynamic. And so I think the solution is obviously you need to curate some content, but don't try to curate everything. That's where the search comes in. That's where the intelligence of an agent comes in because it can distinguish between, hey, this is a work in progress versus this is an approved, stamped, verified, authoritative document. And I think we're going to see the AI tools get more capability in discerning that. It will always be a challenge, but we're at the cusp of having to worry about that data quality a little bit less because the AI tools are going to help us in that process.
And finally, is there anything from Sinequa that you could talk about that might be the next big thing that Sinequa is working on?
Sure, and I appreciate the opportunity. We're seeing real interest in kind of two areas.
Mm.
One, of course, is the agents. So we have an agent platform. You can build and deploy agents, and so that's going to automate more capabilities and assist people with more complex tasks. And the other thing that we're seeing a lot of excitement around is multimodal.
Mm.
And again, multimodal is working not just with text, but being able to work with pictures and audio and even video, and the models have that capability now. So in the pre-AI world, we really couldn't do much with something if it wasn't text. And if we did something with it, it was a hard custom build project. Now it's not. These models understand that. And so that's really opening up opportunities for customers and prospects to take advantage of a vast trove of content that they have of material that they've never really been able to use before.
Yeah.
So those are the two exciting things we're seeing right now, other than just the general frenzied pace of how fast all this is going.
Yeah. I appreciate your time, Jeff. Thank you so much for sharing your insights into the evolving role of the agentic AI and why data readiness is quickly becoming the real challenge for organizations of all sizes. It's really been a thoughtful and eye-opening conversation, and I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much. Enjoyed the conversation.
Oh, good. And for those that would like to learn more, you can visit Sinequa's website at sinequa.com. Keeping you connected to tomorrow. Today, this is Alicia with AInews.com.